Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. I am going to flip this over to my co-host, Paul Presidou. Paul, you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for taking so much time out of your very busy schedules to join us. I know there's a lot of more cool things that you can be doing on a Wednesday afternoon, evening, than learning about a climate emergency, but you taking your time out of your schedule, it's the beginning of something great. We have to make sure that we're empowering every single resident, regardless of the capital letters that you have behind your last name, regardless of what titles you carry for the community, with the grassroots information of what you need to do to be better stewards of our community. We're only here temporarily. We got to do what we can to preserve our natural resources for the future residents of New Rochelle, especially if we're going to be going above and beyond for these type of issues in other communities. So really, thank you all. It's really a pleasure to be working alongside Raya, Lisa Burton. I went to high school with her kids. So it's really awesome to be around with her and see really these champions behind the scenes and what it really takes to organize an event like this. It's not easy, but really it takes a community and the way that people are organized and coming together. It shows that this is something that we take seriously in the city of New Rochelle, especially if we're going to be calling ourselves the Queen City of the Sound. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to having a very productive program with each and every one of you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, so to start us off, we are going to hear from Shane.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shane Ocean-Loyer. I run a nonprofit called Urban Legacy, and our mission is to build Black wealth. I have a very limited time, so I'm going to go fast, and please be ready to take notes. From this country's inception, our communities have borne the brunt of economic exclusion and destruction, sometimes in the name of environmentalism. Seneca Village was destroyed in 1857 to create the green space of Central Park. Black cities were drowned into lakes by white supremacists. Foraging laws came about to keep emancipated Africans dependent on white-owned industries. FDR's New Deal created the middle class, but its homeowners loan corporation literally started the practice of redlining. Eisenhower's Federal Aid Highway Act gutted Black communities with eminent domain to build interstates. Bringing it to the present, only a fraction of COVID relief goes to Black-owned businesses. Those businesses only received a fraction of their requests compared to their white counterparts. People champion the 30.51% of New York state contracts that are going to MWBEs, but most of those go to non-minority women, which are white women who often live in the same households as the majority. Right here in New Rochelle, we have our own Seneca Village. The interstate system gutted homes and businesses to create more Memorial Highway. To finish us off, they're closing off traffic completely to build a park. Imagine someone burning down your home and your business, but to make up for it, they put a park there. We don't have to imagine Lincoln Park used to be Lincoln Elementary School. These inequities cannot be replicated. Before projects are approved or funded, environmental justice organizations need to include equity for the Black community. We mean actual equity, tradable stock, partnerships, vendor contracts, and training pathways. Black professionals need to be represented in leadership. Black contractors need to be a proportional amount of your vendors. Green spaces need to be utilized to promote Black businesses and Black ownership. Black developers need incentives to build better green, sustainable developments. Black youth need to be in your vine, Raya, vine, right? For training. Training not just to become employees, but to become vendors and self-employed contractors as well. Most importantly, Black-led initiatives need to have an equitable share of government funding and contracts to achieve the sustainable environment we all demand. Those contracts change lives. Kwame and Dixon has Ujima Construction, a Black-owned drywall contractor. Aaron Williams will be using the new Remington Boys and Girls Club to show those youth how to run a building because he's the executive director. Dwayne and Alex from Soulful Synergy, who you'll be hearing from, are training people of color to become tradespeople. My organization partners with professionals to offer training to help Black youth become self-employed MWBEs in various fields. Plus, we all know and love Paul Presendo. So there are more of us, and we have friends as well who you can call. We are not just fields of consumers here to be farmed for our paychecks and our worth as workers. Let's work to marry economic justice and environmental justice.
Okay, next we are going to hear from our esteemed leader, Raya Salter, who will talk about the climate emergency.
All right. Thanks for calling me the esteemed leader, and everybody else, you can also call me Climate Auntie. Okay, so I wanted to take some time to actually talk about the climate emergency in New Rochelle, why it matters, what's in it, and what it can and will mean for you and all of us, and we're going to have to work to make that happen. Okay, so there's some important context here, and it's actually, this is fast breaking information. So two things: New York State and the federal government have both designated the entire southern area of southern New Rochelle to be a quote unquote disadvantaged community. So what does that mean? Quote unquote disadvantaged communities, according to New York law and federal policy, are eligible to receive the benefits of 40% of climate spending, state and federal. New Rochelle has been designated a disadvantaged community. And what I wanted to show folks is that you can, if you don't believe me, which I know that you do. So what this is, there's an actual map. I'll share with the link in a link in the chat, so you can go to the map yourself and you can put in zip codes and search by zip code. When you go to this map and you put in our zip code, this is exactly what you see. You see that whole purple area? That is the state designation of a quote unquote disadvantaged community. And when you look at the map, it tells you what those criteria are. And what it includes is climate vulnerability and environmental burden. And so environmental burden means things like heavy manufacturing, poor air quality, exposure to toxics and other industrial pollution. And what climate vulnerability means is both, are you near a floodplain? We know we're in a coastal city. Do you have adequate access to housing, healthcare, and other indicators? And you can look at that yourself. And so what the state has done is that in doing this analysis, and you see right here, our neighbors in Mount Vernon, right? You see our neighbors in Yonkers. You see our neighbors in the Bronx. This is us. This is us too. We the same. We have been designated by New York State, the entire south of New Rochelle, to be in danger and to be significantly burdened by toxics and pollution. That is the designation. This is the new federal disadvantaged community criteria. And while it's different, and while both of these maps, they have their issues, and we're still working behind the scenes as advocates to make them better, but you're seeing somewhat of the same impact on the federal tool as well. And why I said this is so fast breaking is that, as an advocate, I got the email. If you click on the New York Times breaking, what's happened? Senator Manchin has agreed on a package that will include more than $300 billion for climate spending. Is it all good? No, that's the topic of a different talk. But there is a major federal pot of money that might be around the corner if Manchin and Senator Schumer actually get this together. Literally just a few minutes ago, it was announced. Okay, so that's context. Why did I say all of that? Because our community, and even though it's only the south of New Rochelle that you see as this designated disadvantaged community because of the extreme pollution and climate vulnerability, there are pollution and climate vulnerabilities all throughout our city. It's just that the indices for the disadvantaged communities include race, income, and other areas. So we are in big trouble is the issue. And the state and federal government are lining up resources and trying to get ahead of this. Many critiques there, but that's another conversation. So what is our climate emergency? So on May 18th of 2021, the city of New Rochelle declared a climate emergency. It's really part of a broader, largely symbolic movement that walks around saying we must declare a climate emergency, yet it's been impactful. Many cities, including New York City, have declared a climate emergency. President Joe Biden has been thinking about declaring a national climate emergency. And so also folks like myself and others helped participate in the drafting of this. But the thing is that when you have a piece of legislation, you have to work to implement it or it may go nowhere. So what is in our climate emergency? And this is also a link to the full document we will put in the chat. What does it say? Aspirational things like we must promote equity, opportunity, and justice for all residents, business, and workers, centering frontline communities in decision-making. It says that we must create a climate justice task force, a citywide climate justice task force, including a youth member. It requires us to update our environmental plans. It requires accountability and a regular reporting structure to the city council on these climate efforts. What else? There's a lot of good stuff in there. Strategies for emergency shelters, green infrastructure, addressing urban heat islands, urban areas with lots of concrete, heat up, and you need the trees and the green infrastructures to stop that. And people are suffering. They're suffering here. It's been in the front page. People in Texas are suffering. We are suffering. We don't have cooling centers. We're suffering here in New Rochelle. We need to look at climate and resiliency in the downtown overlay. The departments are supposed to work together on climate. We're supposed to have a sustainability coordinator, budgets, a massive communications plan, all of these pieces that the city said they were going to do to address this crisis. But where are we actually right now? There has been some progress. The city has hired a sustainability coordinator. He's been hired. There are plans to update the Green New Rochelle plan. And there are a lot of things that are churning behind the scenes, but there are some big pieces that have not happened. We haven't seen a climate justice task force. It's very unclear how diverse the community engagement will be or how these areas are being approached. There are things moving in piecemeal. We're not seeing that overarching coordination, that accountability, that transparency, and that diverse community engagement. So it appears that we're falling behind in our deliverables. There's been no city response to our designation. The federal government and the state government have declared that we are at extreme climate risk and burden. And this is a burden. 90 and 95% of how they did it is we are 90 to 95% more burdened than all the other census tracts in New York State. So there are poisons, there are things that we don't know about that need to be addressed. Okay, so what could the climate emergency mean for you? The creation of an actual comprehensive plan with true community impact input, focused on those most impacted, frontline voices, to get some help. Mount Vernon has been out ahead. Mount Vernon got $150 million to fix their water infrastructure. We've got Jamal Bowman and Chuck Schumer, who are going to be working to send more money to our area, but are we stood up? Is our city stood up to receive it? If not, this is all moving ahead. We need to get ahead of it. We need that community voice in development decisions. The city of Providence has an anti-racist climate justice plan. That's what myself and others did a lot of research on when we were working on New Rochelle's, how to do New Rochelle's climate emergency. So other cities, states, jurisdictions, and our neighbors are getting ready to make the changes and fix the problems. And it's unclear that we in New Rochelle have a true coordinated response. We need to see the cooling centers. We need to address coastal resilience. We need the economic development and local job opportunities. We need to address energy affordability, food justice, and access. This is all of the things that a coordinated, integrated climate and environmental justice plan should provide. And so with that, I will turn it back to our host.
Thank you, Raya, as always, for such great information. Okay, so we're going to just take a few minutes and Paul is going to thank the elected officials that have joined us on this WebEx today, or Zoom.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Yep, so I'm just going to take a moment to thank a couple of elected officials for taking time out of their schedules to reach out to join us this evening. First, and this is in no particular order, these are people that I just noticed that happened to join, and I wrote them down on my notepad. We have County Legislator Damon Marr, District 10, who covers the city of New Rochelle and the town of Eastchester. We have County Legislator Erica Pierce, who covers District 2, who is also the chair of our County Board of Legislators Committee on the Environment, Energy, and Climate. So thank you, Legislator Pierce, Chairwoman Pierce, for joining us this evening. We also have Assemblyman Steve Otis, who joined us as well. He is joining us as a representative of New Rochelle alongside other municipalities through the South Shore region. And we also have Superintendent Jonathan Raymond for the New Rochelle School District that's taking time to join us this evening. And also one of our school board trustees, Trustee Valerie Williams, has joined us as well too. So just wanted to take a moment to thank you for your leadership and going above and beyond to join us this evening for this important conversation. Right back to you, Lisa.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and thank you for all of the elected officials and our superintendent for joining us. Okay, so we're going to get started with some speakers who are going to speak specifically on certain topics. Our first speaker tonight, Alex Alvarez, I saw you on before. He is with Soulful Synergy, and he will be speaking about green jobs. Alex?
Yes, right here. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect.
How's everybody doing today? Please excuse me with my camera. I've been trying to turn it on. I'm gonna step outside. Just I feel like like always Murphy's Law. But it's good to be here with everybody. My name is Alejandro Alvarez. I'm co-founder of Soulful Synergy. We've been heavily involved in clean energy jobs for close for almost about 8 to 9 years. But most recently, we've been heavily involved in the space of working very closely with NYSERDA. You guys see me? Excellent.
Yes.
Fantastic. So we've been working very closely with Con Edison, NYSERDA, and Wildan to be able to come up with training programs that, as NYSERDA likes to call it, focused on priority community, right? And one of the biggest successes that we've been able to find is that it's very important, as we're doing here, to create an ecosystem of opportunities and green jobs, right? So it's not just about, finding and thinking about what the solutions are, but also thinking about what the solutions are connected with the resources available here in New York State. And one of the ways that we've been able to identify jobs here in New York State, once again, is focusing on the incentive programs that NYSERDA has, Con Edison has, and combining those and really understanding where the opportunities are going. So in the last couple of years, we've been heavily focused on energy efficiency. Some of you may already know, looking far back when these energy efficiency programs started, when we were changing T12s into T8s and then T8s into LED lighting. So this is going way, way back. It was where we found a lot of the opportunity and success, and I once again aligning our participants to these types of opportunities. Now, as we've progressed into making buildings a lot more energy efficient, and we've taken care of certain systems that were needed in order to, again, get to the point of meeting the needs of New York State's goals for energy efficiency. We've now moved in more into the HVAC space, and thermal systems. It's very important, again, to connect these opportunities also to the trades, and not I guess pigeonhole individuals to think that if they're not working in energy efficiency, then their skills are not transferable. It's very important to also take those individuals that were working in underserved communities, that are working in construction, in the trades like electrical field, plumbing, HVAC, in carpentry, and also give them the transferable skills that in order for them to be able to also excel in this space. There's an enormous amount of opportunity here for individuals that have this type of experience to excel, and also just an enormous opportunities for entrepreneurs as a whole. a lot of the things that we've found in this, in working in the clean energy space, there's a very huge spirit for entrepreneurship, right? Everyone has a lot of great ideas, and many individuals are doing a lot of great work in this space, and have found also their passion by also being able to work for themselves. So it's not just, again, being able to go out there, roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty and working in the trade spaces, but also being given opportunities to work as an entrepreneur and build out your own business. There's just an enormous opportunity there. And being able to, again, to Raya, as to your point of working together, right, and really aligning ourselves with these opportunities, local opportunities, these local goals, and creating training programs that will help us onboard these individuals locally to be able to participate in this ecosystem and these local jobs is going to be very important. But yeah, I'm trying to stay within my time of talking, because I know I want Mike, I'm supposed to be speaking with Michael. So I'll stop there. And like I said, I get super excited when I speak, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Alejandro. Next, well, actually, Michael, did you want to add anything to this, or?
Yeah, just if I could, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Alejandro, for that. My thing is labor standards. What kind of jobs are being created with all this public money that's going into it? The federal government has invested $1.2 trillion in infrastructure. Cuomo signed legislation, the New York Climate Act. All of them contain labor standards. New Rochelle, as of yet, has not included labor standards in the jobs that are created with the public investment in green energy and other things that are going to green our city.
Thank you. And this is Michael Yellen, who is a longtime New Rochelle resident, member of New Roar, as well as a labor advocate. Thank you, Michael. So next week, we're going to hear from Eli Robinson. Eli?
Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
My name's Eli Robinson.
Can folks see the slide?
Yes, we're good.
My name's Eli Robinson. I just graduated from 5th grade at Webster. I will be going into 6th grade at Albert Leonard next year. As a kid, I've been hearing a lot about climate change. Honestly, it makes me worried about the world I live in. At first, I didn't know what to do because I'm only 10 years old. But then I started noticing all of the plastic that was getting thrown out at my school cafeterias every day. This made me think that schools could do a better job of using reusable materials and not being so wasteful about plastics. This would be a way that our community could make a difference in the world. Let me give you a sense of what I'm talking about when I say there are concerns about the way the school district's using single-use plastics. Oranges are served wrapped in plastic wrap and then in another bag. This doesn't make sense because oranges have a thick peel, which is sort of like a wrapper. Plus, kids are required to take one piece of fruit, but a lot of them don't eat it. So all of this plastic is getting thrown away without using a purpose. Another issue is that the recycling bins are in the back of the room, but they are not used. This is because it's more difficult to get to the recycling bins than the numerous trash cans located around the room. I'm thinking that we need to make the recycling bins very accessible so that we can get as many people as possible to use them. A big concern of mine was plastic cutlery. Students are supposed to take a plastic packet with 3 utensils inside. But this doesn't make sense when students almost never use all 3. My friends and I started opening the package and taking out only 1 and leaving it on the counter in the cafeteria. The teachers and lunch monitors in the cafeteria supported us. Even better, we could switch to biodegradable or metal utensils. The high school Green Club did a study in 2021 that showed that the school district would dispose of nearly 2 million pieces of plastic cutlery in one school year. That's almost 2 million pieces of plastic, and the school year is only 180 days. Our plan to make the school more green really got started when I talked to James' mom. James is a Webster dad and a really great activist. Our first step was to ask Mr. Raymond, the superintendent of schools, to meet with us to discuss our concerns about plastic use in the school district. Fortunately, he immediately said yes. He even said that he had noticed some of the same issues. We could tell that he really cared about the environment too.
Up, Eli, you're on mute. You muted yourself by accident.
Sorry, guys. James helped me to connect with kids from other New Rochelle schools. We met and worked together to make a presentation for Mr. Raymond. At our meeting with Mr. Raymond, we presented some of our concerns about the way the district uses single-use plastics. We also proposed the following ideas to help the New Rochelle schools reduce its use of these problematic plastics. First, New Rochelle schools could be a model for other school districts by showing them that it is possible to not use single-use plastics. That would make me very proud to be a student in this city. Second, we could use biodegradable utensils, straws, bags, and bottles. Third, the school district could provide free aluminum water bottles to all students so that students could refill them rather than using numerous plastic water bottles. Fourth, we could start composting at the school to reduce food waste. If we had a compost at our school, we could reduce our waste going to landfills. We could use the composted soil to grow pollinating plants for bees and butterflies. We could even improve school lunches with fresh fruits and vegetables grown in the compost. One last thing is that we could support native plant gardens at schools. The hands-on learning experience will help students learn how to take care of plants, understand about plants' biology and how ecosystems work. And students learn how to take care of our planet. It turns out Mr. Raymond was the perfect person to go ask for help reducing plastics in our schools, because he was very involved in green programs in Sacramento schools. Because he was very involved in green programs in Sacramento, he was able to help us in New Rochelle. He was even able to arrange locally fresh grown vegetables and fruits in Sacramento. As Mr. Raymond has a great plan to help New Rochelle schools become more green. I am really looking forward to being involved in this program. I hope that the New Rochelle schools will be a model for other cities. I also like to think that New Rochelle can raise a whole generation of young people who consider about the environment and don't use plastic forks unless they really need to. Now, I'm going to turn it over to my mentor in activism, James, who will tell you about the exciting plans for our school district coming this year.
Thank you, Eli. I think on behalf of everyone, that was an excellent presentation, and we are so excited for what the organizing that you're doing. But I don't want to give anyone the false impression. When you first approached me, it was with a thick sheaf of petition signatures that you had already gotten from tons of Webster students. So congrats on that organizing. We also have a couple other students. Ben is on, who's one of the high school students who's active at the Green Club, and Elsa and Enzo's at the middle school, Elsa's at the high school. So we have a couple high school students and a couple middle school students on with us who are part of the team working on this. And of course, Superintendent Jonathan Raymond, who's doing some, I would say, providing some excellent leadership in this area. The only thing I'll wrap up to say is at that meeting the students had, they laid out this even more detailed presentation, had a great conversation. And then we've been emailing and talking afterward. Superintendent Raymond has committed to set up a district green schools initiative. It's going to start in the fall. It's going to have some co-chairs and it's going to get rolling, and it's going to start engaging school staff, teachers, parents, students, et cetera. They're going to make a plan and start rolling with it. There's going to be 3 co-chairs. Jennifer Peck, who is luckily married to, or maybe the other way around, Superintendent Raymond. Jefferson Elementary School Principal Kim Nieves, and also our very own on this call, Dr. Nicole Foreman, parent of a Webster now incoming first grader. So that's the team that's going to get us all organized and start working with students, teachers, faculty, and others, and community members, PTAs, to start to green our schools. So we look forward to sharing a lot more about that next time we do another teach-in and throughout the fall and winter and the school year. And I'll turn it back to Lisa.
Thank you so much, James, and thank you, Eli, for that wonderful presentation. Speaking of community and engagement and organizing, which is the ultimate goal of this teach-in, we're going to turn next to Paul President, who will be talking about community engagement.
Thank you so much, Lisa. First, I want to take a moment to thank Eli. Eli, you give me hope. I think you give a lot of us hope here. I went to Webster School as well. I'll tell you, when I was at Daniel Webster Magnet School, I didn't know who the superintendent was. I didn't know who the mayor of New Rochelle was. Matter of fact, my dad wouldn't even let me touch the computer. And the fact that you're here, it really means a lot. And it shows that our future really is bright. And it's up to us to do what we can to make sure that you're operating at your highest level when the time comes for you to take the charge and to actually start implementing some change, which you're already doing, because now you're working at Webster School, you have your middle school years and your high school years to work alongside our superintendent and school district to implement change. So I do want to take a moment to really thank you for your leadership at such an extraordinary young age. Right now, I'm really happy to talk to you, not as the chair of the City of New Rochelle's Environmental Advisory Committee, but as Paul President, that was born and raised in 26 Glencar Avenue, to really talk about some innovative reforms that we have to make if we're really gonna lead the environmental movement of what 21st century New Rochelle looks like following our 2020 census data. Following this 2020 census data, we have seen an extreme shift of our racial demographics in New Rochelle that hasn't really been transparent or really reflected upon in what is the status quo of our current environmental community. The City of New Rochelle right now is over 53% people of color. These are Hispanic Americans, Black Americans, and Asian Americans. But if you go to a lot of events, not even New Rochelle, but other areas of Westchester, you don't see that represented too much. And it's really about all of us to really encourage all of our friends to really start getting involved, to encourage your neighbors to get involved, and all of us to tap into the resources that are available, through the digital marketplace of the internet. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We could go to a community organizations such as Green Latinos to help us with engagement efforts to our rising Hispanic demographics. We could go to the Black Environmental Network to figure out how we could best empower members of the Black community or Afro-American communities with the resources for community stewardship. We could also engage an organization such as the Asian and Pacific Islander Environmental Network to see what we can do, because these are things that we definitely need to do. We need to make sure we're doing everything within our power through the lens of linguistic equity, making sure we're sending Colombians to talk to Colombians, Haitians to talk to Haitians, and we're not sending someone that comes to the heritage of Sweden to explain to someone from Jamaica what they should be doing and how they should be conserving their cooking equipments. Because a lot of the resources that are out there and a lot of the cultural heritage that we all are aware of exist in the fabrics of our community. I tell people all the time, my mother's from Colombia, my father's from Haiti, and their zero waste programming that they implement, it's not aesthetic, it's a method of survival. If the Con Ed bills get too high, I remember turning the lights off and having candles being brought out. My father's Haitian, so he would go to the extreme at those moments. But it's really important that we start to really thread the framework of society together. Our community in New Rochelle is a quilt, it is not a blanket. And it's really now is a time that we really tap into the heterogeneous mixture of our communities and start really pulling everyone together. We need to really start addressing these issues. We need to really start leaning upon each other's strengths and really about all of us working together. You have myself, you have Raya, you have Alejandro Alvarez, you have Justine McClellan as well, who's the chair of our Lake Association. We're all on the members of the City of New Rochelle's Environmental Advisory Committee. So if you have any questions about any initiatives or anything you want to talk about, feel free to reach out to us and talk to us about anything. It makes our job easier when we're working with municipal officials if we could say exactly what is told to us by the member of the community, the stakeholder of the community, because there is a level of urgency that we need to have addressing these issues. If we can do it here in New Rochelle, what hope is there in Thailand? What hope is there in Bangladesh? What hope is there in Senegal? We have clothing washing on people's shores. We really had to really take ownership of the privilege and resource that we have to really make the change that we need to do. Otherwise, the inertia is not going to be there on a state level, national level, or on the global scene. But this is where it starts. All of us on a Zoom on a Wednesday evening, really having the conversation that we should be having as members of the community, because when we hit the ground running for our 9 to 5s or with the responsibilities that we carry as members of the community, it'll be that much better and more effective because we're all carrying that burden together. I guess I want to make sure I yield the remainder of my time back to Lisa. I know that we definitely want to make sure that we're on top of the agenda, on top of our itinerary, but thank you all of you, because this is really the beginning of very important conversations that we should be having in terms of what New Rochelle looks like and what we should be doing for the people in the community that historically been disenfranchised from information that is free flowing within the city of New Rochelle.
Thank you so much, Paul. Okay, so to round out our speakers for this evening, we are now going to hear from Dr. Nicole Foreman. Nicole, are you?
I'm here, and can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
And you can please share my slides. Yes, awesome. So if I can stay on time, we will actually be keeping time. So this is an important test here. So thank you all. I am last, but I think the best has gone before me. Many people sometimes wonder why is a doctor, pediatrician, actually I do clinical trial research, why am I always talking about food waste and how our food is grown in the soil? And today I want to just give you a glimmer of the importance of literally our individual choices of the food we eat, and then the trickle down effect of what happens to that food, if we complete it or not, how it not just affects our own human health, but it truly does impact the health of the environment, which we know is in a climate crisis. So I won't cover everything, next slide, because many of you know that this is a complex web. But with the destruction and disruption that's happened to our earth, with our population growth, our food supply, the production, and consequently also our health are unrecognizable. And like many have proceeded to say before I began talking, the impact is disproportionate within communities of color, whether you call them vulnerable communities, disadvantaged communities. Black and brown communities have the health disparities as well as the environmental injustices related to the web of how our food production, what we do with the food at the end, and how it's impacting our earth. So I'm going to focus on 3 topics to just plant the seed, pun intended, for the discussion in our breakout. So if this sparks interest or you have already thoughts and things you want us to share, I would love for you to join the breakout for this discussion. Next slide. So I want to just use one graphic, and it's a poor graphic. Don't look at the percentages and the numbers. All I want you to see is that to the left is about animal production, and to the right is plant production from an agriculture, just simply how food that we eat that ends up on our table is produced. And those large bars of blue, green, and red with the meat animal production speaks directly to greenhouse gas emissions. And then as you see to the right, within the plant-based space, ending in lentils, there's much less negative effect on green gases. So if I wanted to interchange this into a health bar with a cardiovascular risk outcomes, diabetes, stroke, the consumption of meat also is going to have a disproportionately higher impact on those poor health outcomes, which many in the public health sector and many people on the call may even be experiencing or have family members. So the theme here is how we treat our soil, how we as humans, our health is evolving, and how the health of the environment evolving are all interconnected, and it all matters. Next slide. So the consumption of our food, I'm not here to preach vegan versus omnivore. These are just the facts of what food production and then also the ingestion of food, how it impacts the environment. But not more importantly, equally importantly, is there's a divergence. There are those that have so much food around the world that there's actually a tremendous amount of food waste. And it is an environmental, financial, and equity implications. In Westchester, the most recent study conducted through the county government showed that over 100,000 tons of food is wasted annually just from the commercial sector. And an additional 85,000 tons of, excuse me, I did say 100,000 tons, and 85,000 tons of food is wasted just in households. And that's Westchester. I wish I had information to trickle down in New Rochelle, but that's something that hopefully we can get soon. But with those staggering amounts of discarded food, still roughly 1 in 6 individuals across the state of New York struggle with hunger. And in Westchester, that equates to over 200,000 residents in Westchester who are either food insecure or at risk and need of assistance. And we know that that is disproportionately affecting elderly as well as Black and Brown communities in New Rochelle and our surrounding areas. So there's a huge, huge disparity of what's happening. Next slide. And next slide.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, so I'll just speak to it. It looks like it didn't make it. So if that food waste could be diverted from going into garbage and into landfills or incinerators, which Westchester use, you're not just decreasing the pollution, the degradation to the environment, you are also then having an opportunity to mix that food waste with the fallen leaves and the browns that are already happening in our yearly cycles and generating compost. And it's estimated that you could divert 125 tons of kitchen waste if just 500 households were compost. This was produced in the Green New Rochelle sustainability plan. It was estimated that if 500 households in New Rochelle could start composting food instead of putting it in the kitchen waste to the garbage, you could actually truly impact watershed cost, city cost, as well as that compost, once put back into garden practices, is actually able to, one statistic is just impact stormwater pollutants. Compost is such a bioactive substance, black gold they call it. It has up to 60 to 95% of averting the poor chemicals, the pesticides, and other chemicals that are generated through urbanization and environmental and economic development can be offset by composting and putting it back into the soil to regenerate. So my last slide, I conclude with, this is not new information. We are kind of go back to where we began. The USDA recognized many decades ago that all life depends upon the soil. There can be no life without soil, no soil without life. They have evolved together. And while they have evolved to this place where they're in a dire emergency for our care, if we can have some attention to soil health, our human health, and the health of our environment, can regenerate. So love to start this discussion on how we can impact our local environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. That was very impactful. All right, so the next part of this program is for you all. This is a teach-in, but we are teaching and learning together. And that is part of the organizing that we will be doing. So there will be a series of breakout rooms led by the speakers that you've heard so far. You will be able to, if you go down to your screen, there should be 4 little boxes that say breakout. You will be able to select which one you want to go to. If for some reason, and you may have an old Zoom that you cannot put yourself into a breakout room, please just raise your hand or come off of mute and let us know, and Alex will help you with that. So we will be in breakout rooms for about 30 minutes. We will report out so that we can all kind of understand, and then we will have some next steps. So every room should have had a scribe who can report out briefly on what was said. So Paul, I was in your room, but I don't know who was the scribe for the breakout room for community engagement. If you want to go first.
Yeah, so I could, let me pull up this document right here, but we did talk about a lot of issues. You know, we did talk about, you know, kind of how this is the beginning of having this important conversation, but at the same time, there has to be a clear commitment that's made by the city to really target information being presented to communities or individuals that have historically not received information. There has to be more transparency from the city in terms of, you know, funding that's available, expenditure of the funding that's required, and making sure that people in proximity to the frontline issues are also placed in a position of power to be co-equal partners in the decision-making that's done. That's the most important thing, you know, making sure that you have people that are most invested on the remediation, being empowered as a co-equal partner or empowered as much as possible to be part of the decision-making of, you know, any scoping plan that's created, as opposed to what we're seeing now, mentioning the Starbucks, the drive-through Starbucks that is now being developed in a community where residents there don't really have the economic bandwidth to purchase coffee from a Starbucks. So this is just an example of how we're very out of alignment with what needs to be done. And these are things that need to be addressed while we're having simultaneous conversations on racial equity, intergenerational equity, and making sure that we're leaning on the shoulders of people that are already exemplifying some method of success in that. So we're not reinventing the wheel, we're identifying other regions that are having a strong example for us to build off of.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. Number 2 is Nicole and food waste. Who was described for you, Nicole? You're on mute, hon.
Yes, I had a student scribe, Elsa Confalone. Confalone, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce it perfectly. I did not tell her that she would be immediately doing any kind of summary, but I absolutely positively want to give her the opportunity to chime in, come on camera and give just whatever points you have that resonated with you, and then I can do quick filler just to give her some time to voice. But it's also okay if you don't want to, because I did not tell you before.
No, this is fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Basically what we did is we asked people what their thoughts were on composting and why they joined our breakout room. And I didn't speak, but I said something for like a minute and a half about how I used to live in Seattle and we had a full compost system, and we would compost our food. And when we moved to New York, it was kind of like a shock of change because we didn't have that. And there was a lot of people that felt what I felt. They moved from like San Diego, or like I think someone lived in Tuckahoe where they have composting system, and it was just a lot of change. And yeah, I don't know.
Awesome. Thank you, Elsa. Yeah, and so we were a lot of recurrent things. Most importantly, I think people it was a wonderful quote. Now I have food as the nexus of all change, because it's so personal and you have to do it. And I thought, that was kind of the theme. And people also were commenting that, it's important to talk about food scraps, and how that goes into compost and regenerating soil, but then also food waste from a throwing away food, like, finishing your plate, or, too many produce. The example Eli gave about the kids who are given oranges at the school and don't want them and then throw them away in the garbage versus food security. So there really are, this movement for food sustainability is very specific. And so it all comes together, but people all have voiced the importance of advocating for all of that. We were luckily fortunate enough to also be joined by other Westchester County legislators, and they were helping to show talk about what was available to us. Steve Otis joined, and he's going to be part of our summary of our session because he couldn't respond to some of the things Westchester County is doing to help municipalities. I think that we've decided we're going to organize a tour to the Westchester County Compost Education Center that everyone on the call it was all about, and empowering us to see what even, do we have to wait to the city and embeds it into their waste management, or is there something that we could do at a community level? It was wonderful. There were newbies, there were lots of pediatricians. So, partnering to inspire the next generation, acknowledging that environmental health, and I can say the same thing, was not a part of our training. So I was amazingly inspired for the group that joined. We have some great takeaways, but I think I gave you a gist of kind of some of the discussions, and I feel like there's some next steps, and I'm excited to put that together, to have some questions for the county and our city. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Okay, so next is James and the Greening New Rochelle schools.
Hey, everybody. And I apologize. I have the worst Zoom game. After 2.5 years, I think I'd be better at it. It's like a Blair Witch project. So I really apologize for that. So we had a great group, and we had a mix of, we had school board members, we had teachers, we have students from the high school, from the middle school, and parents and interested folks. And so we spent a lot of time sharing like where we're coming from, like where schools we're connected to, and what some of our interests are. I'm going to put our greening our schools. There we go. Yeah, into the chat. So we had questions. You can also answer them. So this document is open. So we asked what's going on, what environmental initiatives are happening at your schools, what do you wish was happening at your schools, and then would you like to be on our list? We have an active environmental organizing in the schools group, and it keeps getting bigger, and people can join it. So you can sign up there if you'd like to be on that list. Fair warning, you're going to hear a lot about this district committee that we're all going to be involved with to make sure, and with Dr. Nicole Foreman as one of the co-chairs, that's going to do a lot of great stuff. We're very hopeful for where that's going to go. But that doesn't stop lots of other organizing by students directly, teachers, PTAs, which includes teachers and others. And so we want to connect all the school environmental work together. So there's some great ideas about taking the student presentations and analysis about single-use plastics and putting it in a document that we could share with every PTA, and PTAs could email out or share with everybody in the school community. So there's definitely work to be done to connect between students to student, teacher to teacher, PTAs to PTAs across schools. And so we're definitely going to be doing a whole bunch of that coming in the fall. So this is work that has gotten off the ground thanks to student leadership, and will continue to have student leadership, but also, let's say school staff, teachers, parents, guardians, and others. I'll put it back to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, James. All right, so last but not least, we have Alejandro and Michael Yellen about local green jobs.
Yes. So it was a great conversation. I think we all had very similar sentiments of more so of starting the opportunities and exposing our community and young people to the trades and to technical skills at a much early age. A lot of these types of trainings have, pretty much disappeared in the school system, right? We all remember having, tech classes, and a lot of times when you speak to young people about tech class and they have no, they're not experiencing they're not getting this type of exposure early on. And also just the consistency of opportunities. So it's not just, getting our youth and our community trained up, but also the longevity of these careers and opportunities where we're not just training our people, but also, careers and jobs on the back end that will, have longevity, right? There was a big concern about jobs that come in and our community getting involved in and just pretty much being put aside once there's when the careers come in and for them to be able to have a sustainable life through the income that they can make by working in the trades and be able to stay consistent in that space. And also just on the entrepreneurial and ownership side, that was a very big conversation in this space. Even though we're talking about green jobs are created by the entrepreneurs. And as Roxanne said in the conversation, minority businesses hire minorities, right? And that's something that is very true and is very important to not just focus on the job trainings, but also focus on those that want to have ownership and provide the resources and opportunities for them to also be successful in this space. But overall, those were the pretty much overarching themes that we were speaking of, and also mainly. And Michael, please, if you want to jump in here, speaking about again income and life sustaining income and having the opportunities that it is that you can gain by being able to have to participate in the union and have union jobs and being able to create a life around these opportunities. But overall, there was a lot of great ideas, a lot of passion, and we definitely left with some with the need of more time to continue to speak of these opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Michael, are you gonna?
Oh, Chapo got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we are at the point where we're going to be wrapping everything up. So the purpose of teaching is not. I was just going to say that the purpose of the teaching is for us to learn from each other, but also to know that the power rests with us in the community. It is not all on City Hall to do this, to move this forward, because it's a democracy and our voice is to be heard. And whether it's in community with each other or whether it's by reaching out to our representatives. And I think, Raya, you're going to put in the...
Yes, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I was like, wait, no, we can't leave before we do this. I was here with you. Calm down, Raya. My apologies. So yes, please, if you look in the chat, you'll see there is a link. If you click that link, it'll take you to a place where you can write a letter. And there's a pre-filled letter if you want to use that one, or you can write your own. And what it does for you is it has our city officials already, their email is already teed up. So we thought it would be fantastic if right now, everybody on this call could go ahead, and we'll just go ahead and take 5-7 minutes to click on that link and please send a letter. Tell our officials what you think, what you want to see about this climate emergency. We will also follow up after this with some of the, all of this good stuff that we got. We'll follow up with this as well. But if you could please right now, go ahead and click that link.
Thank you all for doing your impromptu homework. We have over 100 some letters going out to our city council who were unable to join us this evening, or unwilling, we don't know. But anyway, they now understand what we're about. And hopefully this will provide a space to really have an ongoing dialogue so that we can move the city forward. So with next steps, I'm going to turn this over to Raya. And I'm going to say goodnight and thank you, because she's going to close us out. But thank you for being part of this. And it is just the first of many, because The power in the city is with the people.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I can't even begin to tell you how fortunate we are to have Lisa in our community and her tremendous leadership and her creativity. And, actually, this was her idea, like we need to have an ongoing conversation about the climate emergency. So in terms of next steps, we're so excited about these conversations. We want to be a part of supporting all of the, and holding space for all the things that are going to rush forward. We want to capture everybody's info, make sure that we get the info out back to everyone and also back to our city officials. Please be on the lookout for more information from us, and also reach out if there's something that we can do to help. I'm sharing in the chat a document that I'm calling the Climate Emergency Action Tracker. I went ahead and broke out some of the provisions and figured out where we are on that. I'm also sharing in the chat the climate emergency itself. I guess if there's, is there anyone else, any of the presenters who want to share a link or an upcoming event? This now, I think, would be the time. Please share in the chat. And Lisa, is there anything else that you can think of?
No, just to, again, everyone who's on this had to register. So please be on the lookout for more information from us. This will be an ongoing conversation. I think everyone knows how to get in touch with us, but you know what, I know Raya is your information as, I'll put my information in the chat.
Okay.
Again, if you have, if you have community groups that you belong to and you want to expand this conversation, either in person or in Zoom, please reach out to one of the presenters here tonight, because we need to build trust and we need to build community in order to really make a change, and it starts with us. So again, I thank everybody who joined us. I certainly look forward to our next teach-in. And if anyone who's been part of this wants to lead one of the discussions, please reach out to us, because we know that there is a lot of talent in New Rochelle and a lot of points heard. So let's link arms and get this
Thank
done.
you so much,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
Thanks to all the presenters. Thank you in particular. Thanks to Eli, James for the tremendous work you've been organizing. Nicole, Michael, Alex Dubrow for doing tech. And I hope I did not miss any other name. Thanks everyone so much, and have a great evening.
You too.